You're listening to BioTalk with Rich Bendis, the only podcast focused on the BioHealth capital region. Each episode, we'll talk to leaders in the industry to break down the biggest topics happening today in BioHealth.
Hi, this is Rich Bendis, your host for BioTalk. And we're privileged today to have a new leader in the BioHealth capital region join us on this podcast. It's Jared Smith, who's president and CEO of the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation in Montgomery County, Maryland. Jared, having moved to this area recently, is going to give us a lot about his background and why he made the decision to come to Montgomery County, Maryland, as well as tell us everything we need to know about Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. So, Jared, welcome to BioTalk.
Thank you for that kind introduction, Rich, and for the warm welcome that Montgomery County has really given me. It's an exciting time. As you mentioned, I'm the president and CEO of the Montgomery County Economic Development Group here, or MCEDC, as we say, and it's a role that I started back in December. So MCEDC is a public-private partnership, and we're responsible for the county's economic development. Our mission is to really nurture a great business ecosystem with a dedicated focus on strategic industries, ensuring the county continues to attract that type of investment, working with our local companies, helping people with their workforce development needs, partnering with chambers of commerce and the business community and other nonprofits. It is a fun job, Rich. It really is. And it's crucial that companies know that we're here to help them and all the different resources that we have to offer them. It's an exciting time for me. It's an exciting time for the county. It's an exciting time for this organization. And I appreciate the opportunity to join you today.
We're excited to have you, and I'm glad you're still having fun after 4 or 5 months. One of the things that the listeners might be interested in hearing, though, Jared, is a little bit about your background, how you evolved in economic development to get to this position, and sort of what stimulated your interest in economic development.
I grew up the son of a teacher and the son of a banker. And I said I would never be anything like my parents. I'm an only child, so I'm going to go out and be my own person. Went to college. I got a liberal arts degree, and then I went back and got an MBA and went into banking. So I literally split my parents right down the middle. I grew up in an area of Louisiana that was economically challenged. It was basically a farming community. And that was where I learned, watching my parents basically be public servants in a way, working with people in the community to create a better life. I went to LSU, eventually ended up working in economic development for the state. And so I got to drive all over the state of Louisiana, meeting with large companies like ExxonMobil to very small business folks that made cabinets and any number of things. And I got to experience what prosperity and what the lack of hope in a community can look like simultaneously. After I worked in Louisiana for a while, I went to the Las Vegas region, and I spent 10 years there understanding what real lack of economic diversification looks like. Las Vegas is absolutely a growing and fun area to be, and there are opportunities, but it was very much dominated by just a couple of sectors. And I spent a decade helping diversify that economy, away from just gaming and hospitality and tourism to manufacturing and logistics and tech and banking. So coming here to Montgomery County, I've had the opportunity to dive into biosciences and learn more about the needs of those companies. And hey, I'm still learning. However, what I am very good at is bringing people together, finding solutions for issues, creating pathways, and pushing for what's next in a community. And that's what I think economic development does. And that's what I'm here to do.
Well, we need you. And I guarantee Montgomery County, Maryland is a totally different profile than Las Vegas, Nevada, as you probably encountered. But it seems like you're adapting very well. You're very present within the community, and we welcome your new personality, Jared. Thank you. One of the things that makes Montgomery County unique in the United States is there are probably very few areas that have the abundance and quality of talent that Montgomery County has. Talk a little bit about why it's so important for you as an economic development leader to have this talent source available to you for employers and investors who would like to reside or think about coming to Montgomery County.
Rich, when companies are trying to decide where to locate and grow, they need to know, number one, do I have the talent that I need for the next 5 to 10 years to be successful? They also need to be sure they've got a great site, and they need to be sure that they are plugging into an area that offers them opportunity in general. The workforce here is absolutely one of the most compelling reasons that a company would choose Montgomery County. We have one of the most highly educated and diverse, let me say that very intently, diverse talent pools in the country. And there's deep expertise here in areas like life sciences, IT, cyber, AI, quantum, advanced manufacturing, you name it. But this is a workforce that not only brings those technical skills, but experience in working with highly regulated, mission-driven environments. They are used to collaborating with people internationally. The amount of foreign speakers that we have here and the ability to communicate with the world is unparalleled. That's why I lean into that diverse talent pool. I have heard our county executive say, and I think he's right about this, companies that are looking at Montgomery County, or actually more importantly, looking to come to the U.S., they want to locate to an area where they can feel at home. And because we are so diverse, they can plug into their own communities here and start to grow and feel comfortable. I think that's incredible. They benefit from that, and they also benefit from proximity to these leading universities that we have. So the Shady Grove is a great example. Montgomery College is here, which, Montgomery College is the #1 community college in the state. Let me give you a few facts that I'd love for you and the listeners to consider here. The broader DC region is recognized as a top 10 best talent market in North America and the 5th best AI talent pool in the nation. And that's coming from CB Richard Ellis, CBRE, the real estate firm. A lot of people don't realize this, but here in Montgomery County, 1 out of every 3 adults ages 25 and older, so in the workforce, holds an advanced degree. That is impressive. The county has more than 25 times the national average concentration of employees in manufacturing and reproducing magnetic and optical media. And those are skills that really underpin critical capabilities like imaging and sensing and data transmission. Like, these are future-proof jobs, and these employees and workforce are future-proof employees. That is incredibly strong. I mentioned also, let me talk a little bit about the state of Maryland, which is the 3rd most educated state in the country, which is fantastic. We've got the 2nd highest concentration of PhDs in the U.S. If you want to find smart people, they are here. And that is amazing. But Rich, even more important, our community in Montgomery County is just as focused on the entire spectrum of workforce here. Yes, you hear me talk a lot about these smart people and their PhDs, but companies need more than just PhDs and master's degrees. They need people across the entire workforce spectrum. Our county has made big investments in pulling people up into workforce pathways. And we are talking right now a lot about how do we pull people into biosciences that wouldn't realize that there's a pathway for them there. Now, I don't have all those answers today. I know we're going to talk about our 4-year strategic plan, but those are questions that we are asking right now of partners throughout the county.
I'm glad that you had mentioned partners in your last comment, Jared. because partnerships are extremely critical for us to all nurture and grow. But I think our listeners might be interested to understand the structure of Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation as a true private-public partnership, doing the economic development work for the county of Montgomery, different than the way a lot of other economic development organizations might be structured in other municipalities.
We are a 501c3. The county spun our organization out of county government into a standalone nonprofit. In this way, we're able to bring the business community and other nonprofits together, a little bit wider of a range there, to bring people together to engage on economic development. So our budget currently comes from the county, and we think it's important that we speak the language of .com and .gov, and we bridge that gap.
Well, we talked about these partnerships, and your board is representative of that because you have a very diverse board. You talked about diversity. Talk about the importance of partnerships with local government, chambers, key stakeholders, industry, academia, and why it's important for MCEDC to be effective through these partnerships.
One thing that was immediately evident to me when I joined this organization was the collaborative nature of partners throughout the county. So just like you said, between the local government and key partners and economic development, that gives us a big competitive advantage over other markets that don't have that collaboration or haven't refined it as well as we have. We're often working with other folks throughout the region, and that alignment and collaboration, I think, is a big strength of not just our organization, but the county. Companies large and small find a one-door policy where we bring everybody together to meet the needs of the moment. So maybe there's a challenge, or maybe there's an opportunity. Maybe we just need to have some discussions about the future, whatever that is. This county is currently showing me what it's made of in this 4-year strategic planning process, in wanting to come together, dream together, plan together, build together. We have the ability to do those things. So, for example, if a company needs specialized talent for something, a role they're trying to fulfill, we know who to connect them with. And we don't just introduce them to somebody and say goodbye. We introduce them and we walk the path with them for a couple of reasons. Number one, to make sure that companies are actually getting the resources that they need. Number two, we can learn as well. So our team gets a little smarter when they walk that path with a company. And number three, we learn where we can find better efficiencies and opportunities to improve that customer service that we're offering people. So the possibilities are just endless. And the ability to bridge that gap between .gov and .com is, some people would say that it's difficult. I think it's amazing, actually. And it creates a competitive advantage for Montgomery County.
I basically understand the importance of private-public partnerships and Montgomery County because 15 years ago, boy, am I dating myself, Montgomery County helped create BioHealth innovation because of the importance of the life science industry within Montgomery County as being one of the dominant industries that's helping drive its economy. Talk a little bit about how we, being one of the top 3 biopharma clusters in the United States, with the epicenter being in Montgomery County, how you see life sciences importance to the county, and basically, will it continue to be a focus for MCEDC as you continue to develop your plans for the future?
Let me be very clear. We are the 3rd largest biopharma hub in the nation. That is never going anywhere. We will never not focus on that. That is a core industry that will fuel this community for the next 100 years. You hear me talk about economic diversification, and I do think diversifying is incredibly important, but that should never indicate that we would walk away from such an important industry as life sciences. So it's humbling for me to be in the weeds with some of these companies, learn about their challenges, learn about the opportunities, the potential for growth, how Montgomery County companies are affecting the entire world in a positive way. I've had the opportunity to tour places like United Therapeutics and AstraZeneca's operations. And there are even smaller companies here that people may not know, like Silvec. And I hope I am not mispronouncing their name. I'm still learning. But there's so many examples of these types of organizations who are saving lives, changing lives, that every time I meet one of these companies, I'm blown away by something that I had no idea that their technology was even possible. And the effects of what we're doing here and what they are doing here puts us on the map across the world. So the secret sauce, I think, for Montgomery County, so our secret sauce, if you will, it's number one, we do have that proximity to federal agency headquarters. Like that's important because there's a lot of partnerships between the federal government and these companies who are doing this important work. We've already talked today about the access to talent, and we have an amazing access to talent. It's exactly what these companies are looking for. Montgomery County is a fabulous place to live. So the superb quality of life that Montgomery County has, our public schools are amazing. They're always ranked at the top of the nation. When you think about fun weather, you've got 4 seasons here. You can drive over to the beach. You can drive to the mountains. You can send your kid to an amazing public school. You can wake up, catch the train, and in 25 minutes be standing in front of the Smithsonian. What an amazing place to bring your family and make this your home. And my family and I are experiencing that in real time.
Yeah, we're speaking with Jared Smith, the president and CEO of Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. And Jared, you almost sound like you work for an economic development organization trying to promote Montgomery County.
Well, the fortunate thing is when I work in a place like Montgomery County, it makes it easy. But I'll be honest with you, Rich, it's not easy. This county is experiencing some real challenges that is affecting, the life sciences industry. We've seen the federal government cut funding to a lot of important research programs, and some of these companies are having to scale back and lay people off or put them on the bench. And my biggest concern when I think about those folks sitting on the bench, waiting for that funding to come back or companies to go through a fundraise is, are we going to lose some of the brightest minds in the country because they can't sit on the bench for very long?
Right. You mentioned the times are changing, as Bob Dylan would say in Montgomery County and nationally. Question becomes, what can you do proactively to dust off all of the old strategic plans that have been developed prior to your coming to Montgomery County? And also with all of the changes and transformation that's going on in industry and in the federal government right now, how can Montgomery County be proactive in determining what the plan should be for the future, Jared?
Rich, at a time when many communities are focused on what's going wrong, I'm all in on championing what's right and what's right now. We need to build and accelerate, not try to repair. What I mean by that is we have to be focused on the next 5 to 10 years of opportunity and be building a business community, be building a quality of life, be building a vision that capitalizes on that opportunity. And that's what our 4-year strategic plan for this county is designed to do. Now, we're still in the process of developing it, so there's nothing to share yet. But I will tell you, the draft has to be over to our county executive by the end of July of this year. We've been partnering with the Stanford Research Institute, SRI, to help us build this plan. I can tell you that we have had hundreds of people at this point provide input, which is amazing. One of my goals was to ensure that we had input from the community at large. You can go to our website at www.thinkmoco.com, and there's a survey there for people to fill out. so we can have their voice in the plan that we're building. So we've engaged with stakeholders, elected officials, the public, nonprofits in all areas, as many areas as we can, to build a plan that makes sense for all of us. And I jokingly say maybe it'll be a plan that everybody can hate, because we can't create a plan that everybody is going to love. Are we going to miss something? Yeah, maybe. But guess what? Plans can be augmented. So if we find that there's something that we can do better, we're going to do that. I think what's important here is that we have a vision, we have a roadmap, and we execute. And that's what we're aiming to do. So we're looking at our target industries. We're looking at the available workforce. We're looking at industry sectors, like subsectors inside of our target industries that are primed for explosive growth. We are looking at workforce pathways inside of those target sectors. And then at the end of the day, we're going to add all of that up and get to work, Rich, because no plan is worth having if we don't execute.
Basically, part of that execution is every time you have a change in leadership for an organization, it goes through a transformation. And you're going through that transformation now, and putting that plan together is part of how you structure this for the future. But also, probably you've had some leadership or organizational changes within MCEDC to supplement yourself, because the strength of a leader is only as far as your shadow will reach. So the question is, how far has it reached to touch out to other people to help you now?
Rich, let me tell you, we have an amazing team here at MCEDC. They have been helpful for me as the new guy. I interact with so many people who spend so much time talking to me about how appreciative they are of the quality of the team that we have here in our organization. And if I'm any good at my job, it's because they are amazing at their job. So coming on board, we had to hire a chief operating officer, and we recently did that with Jessica Reynolds, who's coming to us from the Maryland Department of Commerce. We hired a new head of business development, and Danny Chavez, who's coming to us from Texas. We're going to have some new ideas, new ways of thinking about things, and that's really critical in our next phase. And we are strengthening our internal operations and our outward-facing strategies. So together, new faces, new hires, new plans, new momentum, new vision. I'm excited for this organization now, and I'm excited for this organization a year from now, and this county and the state over the next 5 to 10 years. We are building a best-in-class economic development team here at MCEDC. As we look forward, our team's expanded leadership capacity, positions, new strategies, that's all going to grow our ability to create this positive economic impact for the county. Rich, let me tell you a really good stat. We know and we estimate that for every $1 the county invests in economic development, it gets back $11.48 to the general fund. What an amazing return on investment. Now, if we look at that a little bit wider in terms of economic impact, the county's getting back $138 for every dollar. So we are a very good investment. And I'll be honest with you, that's true for MCEDC. It's true for economic development organizations across the country. So I encourage anybody who's listening to our conversation today who may not be in Montgomery County, go look at what your local economic development organization is doing and support them, because they are a growth engine for a municipality, a county, and a state.
Yeah, I think a lot of people around the United States, when they have troubled times, especially with budgets or unpredictability on revenue sources, what they first of all do is cut. They'll cut expenses, cut people, and cut programs. But generally, if you want to grow an economy, you have to invest to build. And as you said before, you can't be all things to all people, but you have to be strategic in where those investments are going to be made. So you just talked about what a return in investment is in MCEDC for every dollar the county invests in that. So talk a little bit about your philosophy related to increased investment or maintaining investment even in troubled times to maintain the status of your economy and where Montgomery County is positioned today and where it wants to go in the future?
My philosophy is to do everything I can with the resources that I have. I think it's important that, especially all nonprofits, we do have to look for efficiencies. I mean, that's truth. And I think any well-run organization is always looking for efficiencies. In a community, when times are tough, you want a well-humming economic development organization because they are focused on helping people get back to work, helping companies understand the resources that are available that they may not know about. And that happens so many times. They're missing out on incentives that are available to either help them grow or help them through a tough time. Economic developers are there to help spread the good word when they are recruiting companies to come open up in their area. We do things like help companies understand the available workforce. So if somebody needs to understand 100 people, we have really good ways of helping them, companies, understand how to connect with those folks and what the depth and breadth of that workforce in our community looks like so that they can feel secure in making that decision. Right now, I would say the number one challenge for economic development organizations, for communities, and maybe a lot of industries is reducing uncertainty. And we are having conversations at the county level with the business community about what can we do to help reduce uncertainty.
I think one of the other things about Montgomery County is they have, and specifically life sciences, they have some unique programs that don't exist in a lot of other counties, cities, or states in the country. And specifically, I'm referring to maybe the Biotechnology Investor Tax Credit Program, which matches the state of Maryland, the SBIR matching program, which is unique to Montgomery County, maybe some job creation programs that are new. I know that there's some BioHealth plans or programs that have just been created related to potential BioHealth companies that want to land. Would you like to explain a little bit about any unique programs you see that are tools in your case that differentiate Montgomery County from other places around the country?
I think you just mentioned some of the really good programs. And I think what I'd like to do is take it a step further. I think what I'd like to do is invite the listeners to reach out to us and let us create a map for what's available. So if somebody is looking for those incentives, instead of me trying to explain the in and outs of everything, just reach out to us. We'll ask you some questions, and then our team is here to ensure that you get plugged into everything. Because, Rich, we could do a whole show on just going through those incentives. So I want to be of service to the folks who are listening here. Just reach out to us and we'll walk you through everything.
We'll do another show on those incentives down after you get your plan done, because you might be creating some new incentives based on what that plan states.
Well, and in the current budget environment, I think we need to see how the incentives shake out as well.
Is there anything that we haven't discussed in this initial podcast that you want listeners to know before we sign off on your introduction to the listeners, Jared?
We've talked about some important things today. I think what I'd like to highlight is what our team is here to do is to speak the language to the best of our ability, to dive in individually with companies and workforce folks that need us, and help connect dots and bridge gaps. So we are here to be of service to these companies. And I would actually ask if anybody out there who's listening who would like to be a partner with us, reach out to me directly. And when I say be a partner, no, I'm not asking for money. What I'm asking is education. If there's somebody out there who has a lesson learned that my team and I need to know, if you're currently experiencing a challenge, or if you've currently found a wonderful opportunity that you think we need to know about, we are here to listen and learn. And I would appreciate any such input. And Rich, just thank you for having me today.
We've been talking with Jared Smith, the new president and CEO of Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. Probably feels old after the first 5 months based on everything that he's run into in Maryland and Montgomery County. But Thank you for doing this inaugural podcast with us on BioTalk, and we hope to catch up with you later this year after your plan's done, and you can talk more about the long-term future for Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation and Montgomery County, one of the leading biopharma clusters in the United States.
Thanks for listening to BioTalk with Rich Bendis.